Hi, I'm Brian Regg. I'm the CEO of Blue Stingray, and we are honored to be part of the Odoo Experience 21. Blue Stingray started in 2009. I was consulting before and had been building cloud applications since the mid-90s for companies like the Department of Defense or MasterCard. We have quickly have grown to 30 people. We have a large team of Odoo developers in the States. We do API and online ordering systems, and we do custom web application development. So we build custom solutions for various industries, and we will come in from the very beginning. We help develop those solutions from building requirements, doing a gap analysis, and then implementing and building that system, whatever it may be, if it's an ERP solution or it's some sort of a custom application. We have completed dozens of Odoo implementations over the last 5 to 10 years and have seen amazing results with clients consistently coming back, wanting more features, wanting updated versions, and needing our support and actually passing us to some of their other clients to help them out. We mainly work with American manufacturing firms and helping build solutions within Odoo, if it's warehousing, manufacturing, fulfillment, or whatever their needs are. And in the last 3 to 5 years, we heavily have been involved in the Napa wine industry. The wine industry is very tricky. Wine is very temperamental. Shipping it around the states, every county has a different law. There's weather holds, there's weather conditions. Shipping wine is complicated, so we use Odoo to eliminate spreadsheets, manual work, and all those tedious tasks that were done by hand before. We've been using Odoo internally for years. We love the project management, we use the support ticketing system, tracking users working, billing, anything you can think of. And what's great about it, we can slightly customize it or tweak it a little bit to fit exactly our needs. We first started just using Odoo for project management, but we found out that even as a software company, we're not an American manufacturing firm, that can use the full benefits of Odoo, that there's plenty of pieces and apps and modules inside of there that we can use to run more efficiently. We have used it for capacity management studies, selling, increasing revenue. It just seems to be endless. If you own a business, one of the toughest things that you can do is try to keep track of how many employees you need. And then hiring them at the right amount of time. Don't want to have too many employees. You definitely don't want to have too few of employees. A new opportunity comes up. Capacity management is extremely important, and it is a huge pain for a company like mine. We had multiple spreadsheets that we were spending hours on. We were manually digging through timesheets and projects and estimating and saying, we need to hire somebody in 2 months, we're going to get our ass kicked, and we need to hire somebody now. That's how we did it. And it was not smooth, it was bumpy. So now we've taken the power of Odoo, we have all that data already in the system. We're tracking time, we're tracking projects. All we have to do is put some basic formulas in there, and this will completely automate and predict how many employees I need in the near future. It'll tell me on a dashboard immediately, I need to hire 2 people today, or I need to get them on the schedule, interviewing, whatever it may be, or maybe we need to try to pick up more work. We're short, we're going to be short on hours in 2 months, we need to try to find more clients, we need to talk to our clients, whatever it may be. Capacity management is very important, and it's a giant pain for most companies, and we have completely automated that process where I can quickly glance and in 1 or 2 seconds say, I need to pick up the phone, we need to put an ad in the paper, we need to hire somebody. We're really proud of what we built. It's really simplified our lives. Here's Joe and Travis to talk about it.
Thanks, Brian. Hello, everyone. I'm Joe Skirtich, the Director of Business Solutions here at Blue Stingray. Here at Blue Stingray, capacity, velocity, and efficiency are key to what we do. Capacity has been an issue for us in the past based on the way that we used to do business. And thanks to Odoo, we now have a new way to address capacity management. In its most basic form, we needed to be able to compare employee time to program with the estimated hours in our system. With this information, we're able to tell if we need to scale our business one way or the other, whether we should be hiring, whether we should be looking down the road a few months to hire in the future, long or short term, or whether it was time to panic. So how would that look in Odoo? Here's Travis to show us from a technical perspective.
Thanks, Joe. I'm Travis Walbrook, the lead Odoo developer here at Blue Stingray. And I was tasked with redesigning or re-implementing our internal task project capacity planning tool using Odoo, which is an exciting concept because we know how powerful it is, and we've already done a lot with it. Being able to reinvent our own tool set using Odoo was a great opportunity. Well, we're still in the early stages of developing and getting all the features in there, but even early on, we can tell it's going to be a really powerful and flexible tool for us to be able to plan projects and hiring short and long term. So at the core of designing this tool, we know we wanted to use Odoo because that's where we have all of our data. We've got timesheets pulling in, we've got all of our project tasks and planning in there. So all of the data is already in Odoo, and our past processes weren't going smoothly. So we knew we wanted to implement that inside of Odoo so that we'd have one process, start to finish, all of our data and reporting all together. At its core, it's connecting a couple of things that we already know. We've got our project and the task and around estimates of how much each project is going to take. And then coupling that with what we know about our workforce and all of the developers and how much time we have available over a certain course of time. So the goal for this is to take those two pieces of data that we already have in Odoo and giving a more automated way to get valuable reporting out of that so that we can make decisions on whether we need to hire or take on more projects or how to balance this all out so that we have a steady, consistent workload and we can do high quality work.
So what we're after is a dashboard so we can take a glance to see if we have enough work, too little work, or just enough. And it doesn't have to be exact. We're really after, are we a couple hours over or behind, in which case we can absorb that? Are we 5 to 10 hours, in which case we would need to hire right away? Or is it a lot more than that, in which case we really need to move? These are the types of things that we're looking to forecast. We want to make sure that we can comfortably deliver on all of our promises based on what we are able to forecast.
All right, so let's take a look at how we actually did it. We like to start with a 6-month time frame as sort of our base, and then we can take a look at what that looks like in Odoo at this point. As far as getting the estimates into tasks to be loaded into the report, it's kind of all the same process. By loading the project and loading in a few or many tasks and assigning estimates to each of those tasks, that data can then get pulled into the various reports that we need to use to forecast. So another benefit that we have by tracking the projects in actual time for historical projects in Odoo, we can use that to inform how good are our estimates. We have our original estimates and we have the actual time that a project took to complete or a specific task took to complete. Taking those actual values and comparing them to our estimates gives us a good idea of how accurate our estimates are on average. Additionally, we can use that to add on sort of a buffer or a percentage on top of our forecast. So we know sort of a range of how much realistically a project is going to take. So we've covered how we get our projects and our tasks estimated into Odoo. The flip side of that is we need to know how many hours of developer time we have available to a project. So the way that we do that is using Odoo's Employees app. We can track the various employees we have in each department, how much time that they're expected to work on a weekly or monthly basis. And we can also take into account how much time off that they're expected to have over the course of a year so that we can balance that into an estimate of how much available time that they have, which we can then funnel into our decision-making for project forecasts. The forecasting tends to actually be very accurate. We can take the averages over the course of several months or a year, depending on the size of the project, and it all balances out really well to result in a pretty accurate estimate overall. So now that we have an idea of how much hours we need for the projects that we have, and we have an idea of how many hours are available based on the amount of developer time that we have, we can use these to compare against each other for our capacity planning and management. So previously we were using various spreadsheets. We tried a few different things. That worked all right, but at the end of the day, we could never really get an estimate that was near real time. It would take a lot of effort to load the data into the spreadsheet to be able to even get the report. So now using Odoo, the data is already there, and that Odoo will use the power of Odoo to load the report on the fly so we can get this forecasting pretty much anytime we want. So with Odoo, that's already done for us. We've got our project tasks that are keeping track of estimates and timelines. We've got our employees that are keeping track of available hours. And so there's none of that duplicate data entry that you have to do. You just enter it once, and then you can report on it as much as you need to and manipulate the reports to get whatever out of it that you need. So for us, this becomes a real-time dashboard that we can get the data that we need without breaking our workflow like we were in the past. We can go from the planning of the project to estimating the hours and getting a realistic timeline of how many people that we need for a project in a matter of minutes instead of a matter of hours. So here we can go to our project app. We can take this per project or all projects together to get the total estimated hours for the projects. And then we can move over to the employees app to get a list of our employees that are working on these projects to get an idea of how many hours are available for them. And then on top of that, we can also consider any leaves that they have entered in the system as available. We can assume that those are going to be used some point during the project and have that subtracted from their available hours. So then now that we have that data in Odoo, we can go to our report to do our capacity planning and get an idea for how those stack up against each other. So once we get that data into the report, we can see the totals at the top, basically trying to balance that for us to give us really easy to look at numbers. So if we've got a couple hours under capacity, we've got too many tasks, we're just a couple hours off, we've almost got the capacity to handle that, then we might see that colored slightly differently, but internally we know that that's not something we need to take action on necessarily. We're not going to be too concerned if we're a couple hours under what we need to be. However, if we've got far too much project work and we don't have enough to cover it, once we get into that 5 to 10 hours or more where we're under what we need to be, the system's going to colorize that for us to indicate, hey, this is a big issue. We need to get that addressed quickly. You can set up a threshold to where if the project is extremely above what's actually available, then it gives you some indication to say, hey, we need to take action for that now so that we're ready for it by the time it gets to us. So we set this dashboard up initially just to get the data out with a fixed time frame. So we said, 6 months is our baseline. That's kind of the best middle ground for planning things. So as of right now, this is a 6-month time frame, and then we basically went back in iterations and added features where we thought they'd be most helpful. So we went from this base 6-month time frame to using Odoo's built-in search criteria where you can filter by certain date ranges and the data will update automatically for you to reflect that. So you can take a short 2-month time frame. If you've got a project that pops up, you can do that planning kind of on the fly. Or if you've got a bigger project that you're planning for, you can spread that time frame out over a year or more if needed.
It's made a huge impact on how we operate and reduced everyone's stress levels across the board. Let me give you a quick example of how this works. The first variable to this equation is our velocity. We have a time tracking tool in which we can add up everybody's hours for the week and see how many are billable as a team and get an average from there. Odoo shows us that number is 30 hours. Now, some of our team leads might work 20 billable hours, while some of our other team members might work 40. The important thing to note is that the average is 30, and that takes into consideration things like PTO, vacation time, sick time. So Odoo tells us that our average is 30 hours. So if we have 10 programmers, 30 times 10 would be 300 hours per week. Times that by 4 and you get 1,200 hours per month. Now we can look at our project management module, which shows us that over the next 6 months, we have 8,000 hours of estimated work. Currently, we know that we have 1,200 hours available per month. Times 6 would give us 7,200 hours. So that leaves a deficit of 800 hours, which tells us that we need to hire. Over the course of 6 months, that 800 hours translates into about 31 extra hours per week. So this tells us that we need to hire 1, if not 2 developers. Finding, hiring, and training new engineers takes approximately 2 months. So we know exactly the lead time it takes to balance out the workload across the team.
So the technical challenges in this were mainly about how to take our external processes and figure out how they best fit into Odoo. We already knew the data was there. We just had to figure out a way to report on it that was simple to report on, simple to implement, and simple for people to analyze and take value from that. So the difficulty was actually not with Odoo, it was just figuring out our internal processes and what they actually were. Once we figured out, this is the process, these are the calculations that we want to use, leveraging Odoo to do that was actually really easy. Odoo's got a really strong and versatile reporting and search filtering, and the data is all there. So once we got our internal processes figured out, getting that into Odoo actually ended up being really straightforward, and we got a lot more out of it than we anticipated. So now that we've got a good baseline in there, we can start taking the things that used to be sort of just a dream and actually make that into our reality. We can take these metrics that we had an idea of in the past, such as actual versus estimated performance, or what happens if an employee leaves, or if we have a big project that drops in our lap, how can we react to these things? And we can start planning for those scenarios before they actually happen so that we have an idea of how to handle them. In the past, any kind of reports like that would take hours or days to set up those different scenarios to even be able to plan those out. And now that we have this tool in front of us, we can be prepared for many more scenarios than we could have in the past. So the capacity planning tool that we have here, this report, makes decision-making a much faster and empowering process. We don't have nearly as much second-guessing going on. And anybody with a surface understanding of the projects that we have going on can look at this report and make meaningful decisions based off of that quickly. So this tool has made it easier for us to grow into our success as a company. We strive to make our clients happy and to make sure that they're coming out of this with not only a better software system, but also saving them time and making their lives easier in ways that they didn't realize. The side effect of that is we sometimes get an influx of work, and it takes time for us to grow into that. But thankfully, this tool helps us visualize that and see when we hit those points where we need to hit that fast growth, or if slow, steady growth is going to be okay to take those on.
The capacity management tool has been a game changer for us. Really, it's streamlined our processes. It's made things run smoother in the office in terms of how we plan things out, how we schedule things, how we basically have a balance between work and life and among the team. And for our clients, it made a world of difference. For our clients, it gives them a much more smooth experience and helps us deliver either on time or in some cases early, which makes them feel great, builds our relationship, and ultimately delivers the best customer experience. In the future, Blue Stingray is looking to grow as a company. We've already expanded outside of our initial manufacturing focus to include the Napa wine industry, sporting goods companies, and with this capacity management tool, as we scale our business up, as we grow our team, this all happens in real time and makes things run much smoother, both for us as a team and for our clients. Thanks so much for joining us for this Odoo experience. It's been a great time for us. We hope that you've enjoyed it as well. And I'm going to kick it back over to Travis to answer any questions you might have.
Hey, welcome in. Yep. So at Blue Stingray, with this capacity management piece, we're actually using a third-party time tracking tool because it was a legacy tool that we started using before we set up Odoo internally. So we integrate that in with Odoo, but we also looked at the possibility of doing it within Odoo timesheets, and you absolutely could. There's a portal. You can set up employee records in there, or consultant records, or vendor, whoever you want to be able to log in. And they could go in and enter in their own time tracking piece to it. And then, of course, it would pull in all the same reporting and forecasting. Yeah.
Holden, thank you. I'm seeing that we might have had some problem with sound for a second. So and that was just on my side. I think you guys are hearing Holden fine. I think we've got it working now. So just to reiterate, that question was just whether you can have outside consultants who aren't Odoo users enter timesheets. And if you want to get further clarification on that, Holly, you can also contact Blue Stingray directly. They can speak further to it. We're going to go ahead and move on. Sammy had asked a question as well, whether this can be done also to manufacturing orders with multi-level bombs. So whether that kind of capacity management can be built in there. Holden, I don't know. Can you speak to that a little bit for us?
Yeah, it can. So like in the video said, Blue Stingray works with a lot of manufacturing firms. So we've done a good amount of capacity planning features and development for manufacturing firms. And a lot of that's already built into Odoo, but it's kind of fits into a separate bucket from what we're talking about. We're talking about more on like the project management side, the employee payroll time tracking side of things, which doesn't directly connect to the manufacturing, BOM, work order parts of the system.
Got you.
Yeah.
I guess kind of to reiterate a little bit, you mentioned that you guys do work with some manufacturers as well. Maybe in the vein of like instead of employees as the capacity, doing kind of work centers and capacities there. Is that something that you guys have done some development on in the past?
Yeah, for sure. And most of that stuff's been out of the box, since I want to say like Odoo 12, Odoo 13. And all that stuff's been great. Like you said, having work centers, being able to do like the capacity formulas plugged into those. And then as your orders flow through the system, be able to track those and see, when are we going over, when are we under, when can we fulfill more orders, when are we going to hit some sort of bottleneck in our production process. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. And certainly, I think if there's any further questions on the specificity there, Sammy, you could also contact Blue Stingray again directly, and they'd be probably more than willing to kind of learn a little bit more about what specifically you need. If there are further questions, keep throwing them in the chat, and we'll get to them. Curious to know, Holden, just if there's kind of an example of what type of organization you feel can be most helped with some of the workforce capacity management development that you guys have done. If you can speak just a little bit to that as well.
Yeah, I think it's really beneficial to partners, is a big thing. So, or really any, development firm, software development firm who's handling a lot of small service-based projects. What we ran into is, a traditional software development company that just works on one product. It's a lot simpler to handle. We're rallying around this one thing. For us, you may have a development team of 10 developers and they're handling 10, 12, 15 projects, some very small, only a few hours a week, some very large that run on for months and months or even years. So we needed something to juggle all of this stuff, where we don't have two project managers constantly trying to go in and manually handle all of these things. So we just need to automate it a little bit more. So I think those sort of things are really helpful for other development firms, other partners. And we did very little customization to it. Like Travis said in the video, a lot of it was mostly out of the box reports that were already built into Odoo.
Awesome. Yeah, and obviously the less customization, the less development, the simpler it is to maintain long term. So that's massively beneficial. You were mentioning that it could be really helpful for development firms, small partner firms, those types of organizations. Obviously, there's other service-based industries as well. Some of them do like where they'll do hiring of individuals for certain jobs and have them be employed by other companies. All kinds of different service fulfillment organizations. Do you think it's kind of a one-to-one crossover where it would be equally helpful for those types of organizations?
I think it could be really close. So we haven't specifically implemented it for any of our clients, but we worked with like an HVAC company, for example, where they have a lot of employees, each with an individual truck, a lot of turnover, people coming in and out. And I could see it work really well for something like that. You have every employee be able to funnel their time into this. You have all of your jobs funnel in, which again, it's another industry where there's like lots of small jobs to juggle, and be able to keep an eye on all of those things without having a lot of middlemen in the process. Same thing for a construction company or like a home development, like you said, these different service-based businesses. I think it'd be really, really close. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Obviously awesome, super important industries to also be able to service as well. So that's good to hear as well. Like I said, continue throwing questions into the chat and we'll field them as they come. Curious to know if, you think that there's like what you might say to someone who's looking at maybe like a one-off kind of capacity management tool versus kind of a more integrated system like Odoo, what you might say some of the benefits are to Odoo specifically and some important aspects to consider when they're weighing those two options. I don't know if you can speak to that a little bit for us.
Yeah, for sure. With an integrated solution, so it's obviously what we ended up going with. The nice part of it is just inherently you have all of the data in one place. So you don't have to worry about like, well, do we have access to this specific data point that we want to pull into our report? It's always there. With having separate systems, you obviously have a benefit of, kind of more modularity. Specific tools can fit specific needs for certain teams, stuff like that. But when you want all those things to talk to each other, that's when it starts to get difficult. So that's when you start to have to implement third-party solutions, or even worst case, custom development, which, like you said, when you start getting into custom development, a bunch of extra code, it can cause issues, especially if you don't have a very strong development team, which obviously is what Blue Stingray popped up around, is like, hey, we need a bunch of strong developers to be able to do this type of stuff.
Awesome.
So I think an integrated solution is really a great option. It worked well for us in this case. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I think that's our time here. Holden, thank you very much for joining us. Thank you, everyone, for joining us in the Q&A. There will be an extended Q&A link that's going to be posted here in a moment. And beyond that, I hope everybody enjoys the rest of Odoo Experience 2021. Have a good one, guys.
Okay, cool. Thanks.